I was born and raised in Detroit. I love my city. I adore all the growth and the architecture and all the amazing things we've accomplished, whether it be Motown or the automotive industry. And as I've traveled the world and spent time and lived in different places, I find that there's no place like home. Detroit will always be home to me, and it'll always be a place that I love. I love this staple, which is amazing. And it really inspired me to do my podcast, which is called Detroit Girl Transformed. I decided to do this podcast on Resilient Radio, which is a Black-owned station based in Detroit. And it really highlights the transformation of my city while I, as an individual, was transforming. And what kind of people come out of Detroit, which are really people with hustle and grit, who are determined and also exhibit perseverance. The podcast will really focus on different people that have different phases of transformation, whether it be their finances, their well-being, their travel experiences, how they transform their relationships, how they transform their spiritual beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's what's best for our city, and that's what's best for our legacy and our future and our family. Hello, happy Transformation Tuesday, everyone. Sorry, my lighting started getting weird. I am Tony Carter, your transformation coach. I am also the owner and host of Detroit Girl Transform. So excited about tonight's conversation. We're going to have great dialogue on the importance of mentorship and sponsorship as you progress your entrepreneurial as well as your executive career. It is such an imperative conversation. I think there's a lot of myth busters that are going to happen today, and really some amazing industry professionals are going to spend some time with us, just walking us through their trajectory and their career growth. However, before we get into that, today I have the honor of actually not being the moderator, but being a panelist, which is rare. So you know that when I pass the torch, it has to be a trusted advisor and subject matter expert. So I am honored to introduce our moderator, Audia Wells, who has years of industry experience in pharmaceutical, healthcare, financial services, insurance, education, entertainment, supporting HR executives as an HR executive and leadership team. She also owns her own HR executive company. She's been on many panels and had many conversations around leadership growth. She has a passion for aligning people's strategy to goals. And so I think you're in the best hands ever, because this is my HR for HR. When I need HR advice as an HR practitioner and professional, I actually call Audia. So Audia, welcome to DGT.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. A little nervous. The roster is bananas. So I was like, is she talking about me? So I'm very excited to be here and honored to get the mic and allow you to share your wisdom this time along with the group. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And cheers to that. I'm starting already. This is going to be a fun night. It's with some individuals that I've grown to admire, I've known for a long period of time. So really looking forward to having some great dialogue. And so Eli's ready. She's clapping for us. We'll go ahead and get started. And Audia is going to introduce the rest of the panel.
Awesome. So tonight we're going to have Kate Vukolich with us, who is a seasoned executive with over 20 years of leadership experience in retail, e-commerce, and global business strategy. Currently Chief Revenue and Chief People Officer at Everlane. In addition to leading the global divisions at Walmart and Massmart, she specializes in turning around underperforming businesses, building high-performing teams, and delivering sustainable growth. So welcome, Kate.
Thanks. What a nice intro. Thank you so much.
I know. I was going to say, I call you Kate the Great and be done with it.
Great. Yes.
20 years too. It makes you feel pretty old.
My bad, my bad.
No, no.
And then next we have Mark Sparger, who is a dynamic executive renowned for his leadership in global operations, sales, and strategic transformation across telecommunications, IT, and global services. So, for over 2 decades, Mark has managed billion-dollar portfolios, brands like Equifax, Sprint, and Carfax to enhance operational strategies, market growth, and increase profit margins. Welcome, Mark.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And
And
audience,
yes,
share really quickly. Mark is actually an honorary member of the DGT team. This is his fourth episode. He's heavily invested in transformative experiences, and I just want to thank and appreciate him for being on this journey with me.
No, it's a pleasure.
thank
Thank you
you.
for inviting me back. So I must be doing something right. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all of our participants, our panelists, will have their full bios on all our social media platforms. So please, please, please go and review. And so next we have our visionary human capital leader, Tony Carter. Um, she has been a transformational strategist and advocate for inclusive leadership for over 20 years in experience with biotech, retail, nonprofit, and manufacturing sectors. Her ability to connect strategic vision with people centered execution earned her distinction as a trusted partner to C suite leaders across high growth, mission driven organizations, as evidenced by her numerous awards for her advocacy and leadership. Welcome, Tony.
That was so nice. Thank you. Did you write that?
No. Look, I have friends who have experience. Look,
You know people that
so
know people.
I know people that know people. So thank you all. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I know others are as well. But before we jump into your professional wisdom that you're going to be sharing with us, I really want to take a moment to just connect heart to heart and have you share with us who you are behind the titles, your roots, your core values, what truly lights you up inside. Kate, you want to go first?
Sure. First of all, this is my first podcast ever. So thank you for having me. I'm super. Mark, I'll try to follow your lead. Obviously, you are doing something right to get invited back. So I'm going to watch carefully to see if I get the invite again. I'm not from Detroit, but I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Minnesota. So I think that there's some Midwest vibes regardless. I think where you're from tells you a lot about who you are as a human. I come from humble beginnings, hard workers, and just that, Midwest grit. I'm incredibly close to my family. My dad had one lesson in life for us that was surround yourself with the best people possible. And I think that's very relevant to today's conversation. And it was really his only rule for us. And he held us to that standard that who you surround yourself with says a lot about yourself. And it was in friend groups, and it was in work groups, social groups, etc. That, if you want to be a good person, you got to be around other good people who are going to push you, challenge you, etc. So I always thought that was a good lesson. But I'm still really close to my family. My parents are still in the Midwest in Minnesota. I have a brother who lives in Germany that I'm very close to, although geographically I'm in California. He's in Germany, yet we're incredibly close. And then when I became older, my parents started fostering. And so I have a 25-year-old foster sister as well. So really close to my family. Outside of work and outside of growing up, I'm very passionate about people, just connecting, community, sense of community, finding really good people. I'm really connected to nature, animals, things of that nature. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go back to what Tony said, and that being from Detroit, we have people of grit, and we know how to get things done. And the biggest thing is about our value of work. And so at my core, I really was shaped by my parents. My parents were intricate in my life, be it my dad, who was a very aggressive person. And the biggest thing was for him is you don't miss work. You don't take off. And so early in my career, it was 20 plus years and I never had a sick day. And reason being was, firstly, I was taught to take care of myself. So I never really got sick. I didn't believe in getting sick. So I really focused on hard work and looking back to my roots. And the thing is then, so it's about family, it's about service, it's about community, and really engaging and interacting with others is a core sentiment to me. And so when we go into this conversation about mentors and mentees and coaching, etc., it started back with my family because they engaged in me, they invested in me. My mother loving, she was a loving one. My dad was a hard worker, the pusher. And so I have both sides of that of me. And so, yes, I'm a hard worker, but I'm also sensitive. And at the core of me is really thinking about people and investing in them the same way my parents invested in me. And again, it started with those Detroit roots.
Oh, I love that. There was something that you said that jumped out at me about taking care of yourself first. So now we have a lot of conversation about work-life balance, and it sounds like you figured that out early on in life, thanks to your parents. Take care of you first. You never had to have a sick day. So I love that. So that Jim, I hope y'all are writing that down. That's one of the gems. So thank you for that. Tony, for the new listeners who don't have the pleasure of knowing Tony from the D, uh, tell us a little bit about you. What's some of your core values? A little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm Tony. I'm an Aries. I like long walks on the beach. Just for just for dating purposes. And you got to be multifaceted
You
here.
don't know who's listening?
You don't know. Like I'm telling you, you have to be ready. You can't get ready. You got to stay ready. I'm originally from Detroit as well, and so hustle and grit is definitely in my DNA. My core values are really surrounded around intersecting passion with purpose and being present. I think that often we think we can multitask, but we really can't. So sometimes just being present in the moment and not thinking about the future or the past, but living in the moment is something that I'm working on, and it is really helping me with well-being as well as mindfulness. I think where you come from and your roots makes a difference in how you cultivate, how you interact. Being born and raised in the Midwest, but also having roots in Florida, in Clearwater, where my dad's from, just really taught me the importance of like being one with nature. I'm a water baby. I love the ocean. I call it the salt life. And I apply those things to the things I do every day. I'm always thinking about how to be a better student of business, how to pique the curiosity of myself and others. And I love, love, love when I see the light bulb go off. So being an HR executive and allowing people to really manifest and flourish and think about the impossible is what I love to do.
I love that. Your volume went down just at the end. So I want to make sure that no one misses all the things that you're going to be sharing with us. So the next question, as we jump right in your experience, how would you define the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? And where do those roles intersect? And where do they diverge in impact? So whoever wants to answer first, I'll let you jump right in.
I don't mind going if you want me to start.
Okay.
When I think of the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, I just like to say a mentor is someone who walks alongside you. They help you on your development roadmap. They provide guidance, they provide feedback, they provide wisdom, they provide support. In essence, they help you sharpen your skills to avoid any potential pitfalls, to avoid any specific issues that you're going through at work. They provide you that guidance and support to help you get through that and enhance your skill set. Whereas a sponsor, on the other hand, as I always like to say, for me, when I looked at my personal career and I was trying to advance, I wasn't in the rooms the decisions were being made. You needed an advocate. You needed a sponsor. A sponsor is someone then that has that influence and that reputation that advocates for you when you're not in the room. But more importantly, they're also putting their career behind you and supporting you. They sponsor you in those rooms when you're not there. And so both are valuable, but they have two distinct places in with respect to how they support your career. And so for me, I love having a sponsor because those are the people that got me where I wanted to be. And there's someone in my career early on. This is actually one of my very first promotions. They nominated me for something. And I was like, me? but she sponsored me. I didn't know that term at the time. And I got that promotion with someone who was behind me and supported me in my career. And I wish I could. I'll remember her first name was Valerie. I don't remember her name. I've been trying to remember her name through the years because I have to thank her, because I would have never been in the place I am today if it wasn't before her. Then I had, of course, a mentor. And actually, it was the worst boss I ever had in my life, but he was the best mentor I ever had in my life, because the guidance he gave me was not how to manage. Don't manage the way he wanted me to guide. And so I learned from him. But the thing is when I look back at my career and I think about the two people that were most important to my career, was the one who sponsored me and my early mentor, who was the worst boss I've ever had in my life. But I learned the most from them. And so they have two distinct responsibilities. And so if you identify now a key mentor who invests in you and help you develop and provide those insights to make you better, you're going to be quite successful. Then you create or identify the best sponsor who can speak on your behalf when you're not there, give you the tools and the resources. Now you're going to elevate. So most definitely identify who works best for you, and that's where you'll be most successful. And that's how I define sponsor and mentor.
I love that. And I'm saying this out loud. I can't take notes as I'm talking. Because this is for me too. That two things can be true, right? Terrible manager, but great mentor. And
Yep.
so you picked out what worked for you, and you kept that part and threw away the other part that didn't work so well for you. I love that. So the
Yeah.
place
Exactly.
can be
You
fire.
learn in all spaces you're in. And so you can make what you're hearing and learning from that person and identify what's best. And there's still tools and resources. It's just up to you to identify how you use them. And so, and as a mentee, and I think that's the conversation. What is the role of the mentee in these cases?
Yep.
And so I saw what my role was, and as I'm learning from my mentor, I had to do the work now.
You
And so
had to
we'll
do
discuss that later.
it. I love that. Tony, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I have a unique experience where I'm gonna just go ahead and call Kate out. Over 20 years, Kate has been my mentor and my sponsor at different times in different rooms at different reasons, right? So Kate advocated for me in rooms that I haven't been in to be on projects or to progress. She's also mentored me at many times. And we have so many funny stories. I think a part of it is really picking someone that you completely trust to have your best interest. So like I can tell you a quick funny story. Kate was like joke with me yesterday, like, I don't know about you in technology, because like 15 years ago I had a meltdown about her not giving me a hotspot as my boss. And so she was just like, I don't know how to help you. Like, we'll figure it out, right? And so but I say that to say, I never got mad. I got mad at the situation, but not mad at Kate, because I was like, all right, she knows what's best for me. And in that role, she was a mentor, right? Like really pushing me to just not let technology be a barrier. But then on the flip side, as a sponsor, I can tell you a story. She might not remember this, but we were walking somewhere. She was like, okay, so I have to offer you this job because they think I'm holding you back. But I know you, and I know that you're good at employee relations, but you don't want to do the job full time. So we just like, we're dying laughing because like she's like offering me this job that I have no interest in. And I was like, thank you for the formal speech, but I do not want to do employee relations full time. I'm good at it, but I don't like it. And so again, that's why I want to give a tangible example where she could ebb and flow. She was a sponsor for me. So she showed up in that room and said, yes, Tony's ready to progress in her career, but this is not the right role for her. And
Mm.
so she was transparent with me about the fact that they were like, oh, you're just saying that because you want to keep her on your team. But yeah, like we were like walking somewhere, and I remember we were like in the middle of the street. She's offering me these jobs. I was like, I don't care. And it was like a high level job. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to hear that every day, people's problems. So I just thought I would just give an example of where you can get both for one person.
And that's good. So you mentioned really having to trust the
Mhm.
relationship and the person, so that you know that you're sharing enough with that person. So it was easy for Kate to say, I know she don't want this, but it's not me holding her back. She don't want this role. But I'm gonna put it out there. But my client is gonna say no. I love it. Kate, have you?
I don't remember, but everything. I love when Tony plays back things to me because I'm like, I feel like that this is not where the mentorship changes, and now she mentors me and gives me feedback on like my leadership over the past 20 years, which mentorship goes both ways. But I think it's rare when you get both. I think it's rare when you have the sponsor and the mentor, but it does happen, and it's such a treat and it's such a privilege if that works. But both comments by Tony and Mark were spot on in my experience. I think the only thing I'd add on to it is sometimes you don't know who those sponsors in the room are. And and I learned that early on in my career in a good way, thankfully, that, you know, you're working on a project, there's somebody that you're working with, you don't even think you built that much of a relationship, and you have no idea that they're actually having some influence on something. And it comes back to you. And so, you know, just my one words of advice on a sponsorship is you never know who could speak on your behalf. And sometimes you think it's these bosses or it's HR or it's this. Everybody's watching each other all the time, and you have no idea who could advocate for you. So do good work, build good relationships, and, you know, the right people will say the right things on your behalf. So just a call out on that. And then to Mark's point, mentorships, they show up in so many different shapes and forms. It could be a bad boss. It could be a peer. It could be a boss. It could be, you know, like I said, Tony and I's relationship over the years has gone back and forth. She's been my mentor so many times, and maybe I've played that role for her as well. And even when I've led big organizations, like I like to look in the ranks and, you know, that younger person who's newer to the team who does something different than what I do, that's a mentor to me because they're looking at the org in a different way than I'm looking at the org. And what are they seeing? What are they experiencing? So I think mentorship shows up in like so many different ways. And sometimes that title gets kind of you're earmarked as like it's a formal relationship and this is what they do and this is what you get out of it. And frankly, I think it's a lot about just who you work with, how you work with them, and everyone has an ability to influence each other and to give feedback and to do the things that mentors do. It can show up in so many different shapes and forms though. And I think the best ones, frankly, are the informal ones that happen that way versus maybe some of the forced mentorships that don't always work the way they're intended to.
I love that. So always be putting your best foot forward and showing up for yourself because everyone is looking. You just don't know which person is going to bring you in the room or the meeting with them. So I love that.
Yeah, and that's spot on. And that's why you to your point, Kate, I always say you have to be good to everyone because you never know who's potentially that sponsor or that mentor. And so if you're not building those relationships at all levels, above and below, because that person that's below you could be your sponsor or potential mentor later because you don't know what their career trajectory is. So you always have to be good people because you never know what situation they're going to be in and how they're going to support you in the future. So well said, Kate.
Thank you. And on the flip side, I've also gotten those calls about, you know, in the job market or whatever, or referral, now going back into that sponsor role. And I have to check myself, like, how close did I work with that person and how much feedback is justified with, you know, experiences and whatnot. And so being a sponsor is also a really big responsibility because sometimes you get calls from left field and you're like, oh, I know of that person and I had small interactions with that person, but am I ready to put my stamp of approval? Am I ready to give maybe positive or negative feedback based on my limited? So I think there's also a big responsibility in being a sponsor or a mentor, but on a sponsor, you know, before you give feedback or before you have that influence, make sure you've really thought it through, you've vetted it through, you've got real tangible experiences because, you know, our voices can carry a lot of weight sometimes.
And I love that because so many times I think people say, you know, basically they come to you with the put me in, put me on mentality, but you don't have the relationship. And so when you decline, it's all bad for them. Like now you're not trying to support, you're not trying to help, but that relationship building, if the trust isn't there, I can't have you going into the rooms on my name and then you cut up. It's a different on me. Right. So having the relationship is so important and not just like, hey, I know this person. I met this person once or twice. I saw him in the same room. We were at the same party. Now I'm going to reach out and ask them to bring me along. That's bold. That's bold.
I like that word. That is bold.
That's bold. That's all I'll say. That's bold. So I love the example that Tony shared with Kate. And so are there other examples or experiences that you have as you think about your own journey, where a sponsor changed the game for you? Are there other examples that you want to share with us?
Yeah, Audie, I can share an example. I remember just really being at a place in my career where I wanted formal training on getting into executive level roles. And so I negotiated in my job offer an executive coach. And so I talk about that in my book, the Empowered Black Female Leader, my chapter, Bet on You. Shout out to that.
Shout
Um,
out.
yeah, yeah. So I'll drop the link in there. But
With the link, yes.
I attended a business meeting where we were building out some business plans and strategic plans for the next 3 to 5 years. And we had an external vendor facilitator. And so I didn't know this, but she had approached my manager about putting me in a women's executive transformational leadership program. And so, again, this is an example. I had no idea she was sponsoring me. She just based it on the interaction and engagement of a professional development meeting that we had with my colleagues. And I was one of the first Black women in a cohort in this program that changed my life. Like, that's the best way to describe it. It was a global transformational program and inspired me to do this podcast. And it really prepared me and propelled me to compete and be ready for executive level roles. So I love Debbie Down. She's in San Francisco. And
Shout out, Debbie.
yeah, hey Debbie, I hope she's on. I tagged her, but she really, and it was an expensive program, right? So she went to my boss and just felt very strongly that I would be a great candidate for the program. I got to meet women across the world that were in that program. We're Sisters for Life. We're still in a WhatsApp group, but I talk differently. I interact differently. I engage differently. And I truly feel after I completed that program that I was executive level ready, which before I never felt that way.
Oh, awesome. That is awesome. Anyone else have any particular, or even a mentor? How has being a mentor or having a mentor shaped your evolution?
I mean, it's been invaluable for me. Um, there's been many situations in my career that I had someone coach me through leadership challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and reminded me that success isn't necessarily about always achieving results, but it's more so focusing on the development and betterment of your people. And I know this is a bad word now, like diversity, but there was a time when you wanted to create organizations that had diverse thought,
Mm-hmm.
that had diverse input, diverse skill sets, because there was a value proposition to have differing perspectives at the table, which allowed you to achieve better success.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always tried to develop and create organizations that always had those kind of people in the room. I felt stale, quite honestly, when I didn't have a diverse environment, when I didn't have diverse mentors, because again, my personal success was having differing perspectives leaning into me, developing me, so which allowed me to be more well-rounded versus one single perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so having mentors that taught me that theme allowed me to be better, well-rounded, more successful. And then that also got me to be in rooms and have different kinds of conversations. Because if I have one thought, then that's one perspective. But I now had to have a broad perspective and allow me to think about from a marketing perspective, from a finance perspective, from a sales perspective, from operations, not just sales, if you will. So for me, having mentors that really help me be more well-rounded, understanding is not always personally about me, that you have to invest in those that you work with and those around you. And again, that's where I was more successful. And so really having a mentor like that made me a better, well-rounded leader in how to manage people.
Mark, what I loved about what you said is, it's that on the coach mentoring and going through like difficult leaderships. I think it's underestimated when we talk about mentorships in particular. Those are the most transformational to me, is when you're in it together and you're solving some big problems, or you're working through leadership challenges or team challenges or business opportunities, whatever it may be. And to have somebody coach you right through it, or to be there to mentor you through or guide you through it, those are like just the special moments.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
without a doubt.
And I think it speaks to what you said earlier about having just good people around you so you can be a good person. That is true personally and professionally, right? You know who the all stars are in an organization. And so learning from them how to do what they do, right? So picking up all the pieces, learning how things work together, but you also gain a skill that helps you become a better whatever it is that you are, because you get to see what other people's pain points are. You become a problem solver, yada yada. But those things are important and impactful, and so that is really good advice about just building those relationships. I love it. So the next question I have you ever stepped into the role of a sponsor or mentor for someone else? What did that look like for you? And what did you learn in the process of lifting others as you climb?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. I think it's such a privilege to be able to mentor or to sponsor individuals. It's also a big responsibility. I think you're taking people's careers and helping them, guide them. So you need to do it with care and caution and make sure that you're truly understanding them. And like to Tony's point earlier about like, I think I was able to do a good job of advocating for her and being for a sponsor because we had built a relationship over the years as friends, as colleagues, as etc. And I knew her aspirations and I knew what she wanted. So therefore it was easier for me to advocate for, should she do this? Should she not do that? But I think it's always fun to find like really good talent and people with really good just potential. That's just exciting. But I think it's also exciting to find some, and Tony's probably going to laugh because she knows I'm guilty of this, to find some like diamonds in the rough. You know that there's something there, but they're not showing their best foot, or they're maybe not, they've got opportunities that aren't showing the way that you want them to show, but you see something. And so,
Kate has a restorative spirit, y'all. She would try to restore.
yeah, I do.
I love that. I'm gonna use that. Kate has a restorative spirit. She sees the good in everybody. The
She
potential.
does. I love that. And I call her when I'm struggling to see the good all the time.
I love it.
But it's such a I find it such a privilege and such an opportunity to work with really good talent. But I also, on the flip side, it's a massive responsibility. And I think we all as leaders need to take it that way, is, you know, you really have to listen. You really have to understand, because you can, and I find that now as in myself also, because I have mentors and I have sponsors and I play that role for other people. And, you know, I'm back in the job market. I had left Everlane. I took a little time off, and now I'm thinking about what I want to do next. And sometimes getting your story out, you got to work on, but then you're working with headhunters or recruiters or whatever else. And maybe some people don't really understand what you're saying. And, you know, is that the right sponsor? Is that the right search firm I want to work with? Or is that the right headhunter or recruiter or whatever? I don't know if they're really getting me. Like, can I speak up for myself? You know, what is it? And so on both sides of it, it really takes a two-way communication to be able to figure out to get the most out of that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if I can dovetail on what you were just saying, firstly, it is a privilege and a significant opportunity to mentor and sponsor others,
Mhm.
and you can't take it lightly. I mean, because you can negatively impact individuals in their career trajectory by providing them poor guidance. As I told you, I had a poor mentor, but because of the fact that it's your responsibility as a mentee, I took it upon myself to identify what this person was saying, what wasn't working, and navigated the nuance. And so he didn't understand what a mentor was.
Mhm.
So now that, you know, I played in that position, it was the most rewarding thing in my career to be able to do it. You know, I've guided professionals throughout their career and provided support. And the biggest thing is you know, and it's you have to do it with love.
Mm.
You have to do it with passion. You have to do it with compassion. You have to do it with empathy.
Mm.
And you have to do it with care. And as employees, you also have to do it with a white glove treatment. And
Okay.
so this is where, you know, people come in as bosses, they come in as managers. So that's looking down versus leaning in and helping people get where they want to be. The problem with mentors and managers, they can be selfish.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, it's a privilege. So if it's a privilege, again, you do it with love, care, and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And you help them navigate the challenges, you help them refine their goals, you help them build confidence, and you help them have a voice. And when you do that, now you're creating an employee who is going to be successful where they are, but more importantly, they're going to give care to the next. And
Absolutely.
that's how you start building a culture in an organization. And oftentimes we don't build culture. We just want to manage. That's not leadership. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to come through with those specific things. And when you do that, those people now will advocate, they will stretch, and they will be better for you. They'll tear a wall down for you on your behalf
I love
because you
that.
live the compassion, love, and engagement, and you're developing where they need to be, and you're taking them there. And you're helping them sharpen those skills so they can be successful. Now you feel comfortable potentially sponsoring this person because you've seen what they bring. You know that they've taken mentoring seriously because they're accountable. A mentee has to be accountable. And so if you lean into them, when they go away and you say they should be doing certain things, they'll come back because of the way you've mentored them and have those things done.
I love that. And I'm hearing that you're not just helping someone, but you're modeling for them to be able to do it for the next person.
Yep.
Well, step by step, they're like, okay, this is how Mark did me. So these are the steps. Very thorough, the right tone, the right engagement, the right care. So I love that. Tony, did you have something? I
So I'm
heard.
completely aligned with everything that Mark and Kate said. The only thing that I would add, I'm actually very passionate about group mentoring and group coaching.
Mm,
So I developed a business model at my last company because everyone wanted an executive coach, and obviously those are, they average about 10 to 20,000 per person, and
per
so
person.
yeah, per person.
So
So
just know that before y'all go asking, just
exactly.
reiterate it.
I talk about that in my book too, how to position that, by the way. So I'm just putting it out there because it's expensive. However, I am the kind of person that wants to make sure everybody gets what they need. So I develop a business model where we would get the price for one for 10 to 12 people. And what I build out, and so those kind of executive, group coaching or lean, I also work with an organization called Lean In, where if you want to do group mentoring, they actually have a whole business model. Lean In is an organization historically built out to empower and develop women, but we have male and female allies in the organization. So, in the group coaching model, we really emphasize that this is not an learning environment where it's top down, it's
Mhm.
interactive, and we learn from each other. So, that's where we get the selling point. So, you could I'm really a big advocate if you have an opportunity to be a part of a mentor circle or group coaching. It is really powerful because you don't just learn from the mentor itself. I like to mentor groups of individuals where we learn from each other, and it's a very collaborative approach. So I did just want to highlight that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Do we have time for one more before we break?
Um, yeah, let's do one more and then we'll go to commercial.
Okay. So, one common myth about mentorship is that the mentor is solely responsible for the mentee's professional development. But in reality, as we discussed, that's not always the case. So, from your perspective, what role should a mentee play in their own growth, and how can they take ownership of the mentoring relationship to get the most out of it?
I'm actually very passionate about this, so I'll start.
Yes.
I'm very passionate about people just standing there and saying, "Hey, mentor me. I'm ready," and they're not prepared. I think in order to get the best out of a mentor relationship, you have to position the conversation and position the mentorship. So, like, there should be an alignment meeting with your manager, you, and your mentor. What are the goals you want to accomplish? What are the timelines? And then for every meeting, you position a couple of weeks in advance with your mentor. Here's a couple of things I want to cover. Here's a recap from some of my conversations with my manager, or here's my last eval, and here's what the look ahead is. If you don't do that and you just put the ownership like, hey, fix me, you're just not going to get what you need out of a person who typically is extremely busy, but also they don't understand what you need. But you can position that and really make the best out of that 30 minutes to an hour every other month. And I just encourage people to do that.
I love that. That's almost as what's the thing we dislike? I'm looking for a job. Here's my resume. We haven't had a conversation about what you're looking for, skills. what you need to make. Nothing. Just, here, find me a job. Here, be my mentor. Figure it out for me. Let me know.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead. No, please, Kate.
I totally agree with what Tony said. I think just to back it up even further, the way that I like to give advice, and I take it myself, is first, do your job really damn well. Like, do it, better than anybody else. Do your job and be self-aware of your own opportunities. You don't need necessarily your boss. It's not your boss should, and it's not your mentor. But like, you can ask for feedback from anybody. You could walk out of a meeting or walk out of a project and ask a peer, ask a subordinate, ask anybody. Like, I think one is just do your job, and second is be really self-aware of yourself, and you can get feedback lots of different ways. Be curious, ask questions, seek feedback, like grow, learn, study, develop. And I think if you do those things, naturally people will want to develop you, people will want to mentor you, people will want to get on that ride with you because you're already doing some of this work. And so it's like, let's help you. You're already showing all the motivation, you're already showing all the good work. And so I think those people naturally attract mentors, sponsors, everyone, because they're showing all the things that we leaders are looking for. So, I think it's the right start. Sometimes I think people are jumping ahead and looking for, the mentorship, the sponsorship, but maybe we're not nailing the fundamentals yet, and we should focus on that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And because Kate is so kind and so caring, she uses the words opportunities. For those that are not familiar, that means areas that you need to improve on. So,
right.
areas
that's what I was going to say. As a mentee, you have to be an active driver in your own growth. And as you were just stating, as a mentee has to be responsible. One of the things I always say to them is, you got to do the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. And they're like, look, what does that mean? What a man in the mirror is, you have to look at yourself. You have to understand what areas you need to develop. You have to be confident enough in yourself to say, hey, I'm weak in this area. That's a development for me. And as your mentor, I'll help you navigate a path of what you need to do. But you have to be self-aware. And so do the man in the mirror. I always tell during our first session, one of the things you're going to do, a man in the mirror, Michael Jackson for me. Mm-hmm. I need you to do a self-assessment so you can clearly understand where you are, what you need to develop. And then at that point, it becomes a shared journey. Then I can help provide guidance. But it's the mentee's responsibility to ensure they're doing the things to move forward. More importantly, making sure they're doing the work. And if they're doing the work, it's a shared responsibility, and we'll make sure they're successful. But it starts with Michael Jackson, man in the mirror.
I love that. I love that terminology. I'm going to steal that. That's great. And I think, for us that do, like you and myself and everybody, like, who find real passion and privilege in mentoring and sponsoring individuals, we want to work with people who are coachable. If you're not coachable, it takes kind of, what's the point? If you don't want the feedback and if you don't want to work together, that's maybe not the best relationship for people like me or maybe you or Audio or anybody who really care passionately about developing others. But if you're not coachable, and we're looking for those traits of coachability, and if you've done the man in the mirror and if you're showing hey, I think I'm pretty confident in this area, but I don't know how to do this. Are you good at this, or etc. So I think the man in the mirror is a fantastic terminology.
And do you have in a quick couple seconds, what are some of those traits that make people coachable so that people can know?
I think it's that man in the mirror. I think it's that reflection. Hey, sometimes we put on this imposter syndrome that we're good at everything and we think we have to be perfect, right? And maybe corporate America shaped that, who knows? But I think there's a level of vulnerability that comes with I may be good at these things, but maybe my presentation skills aren't fantastic, or maybe this isn't good. Asking for help. And I know I'm not probably the best person to go say that because I struggle to ask for help too. But I think it's a matter of that humility of knowing that we've all got strengths and weaknesses and we're not perfect at everything. That's why it takes teams to deliver good things. And so, hey, I'm good at this. I can help that person, but I'm not good at this. How can they help me, et cetera? And so I think it's just that self-awareness that shows that you're coachable because you're looking in the mirror, to Mark's point, and you're saying, hey, I could be better at this, or I could learn at this, or I could grow, or I could benefit from somebody who knows how to do this better than me.
Openness, vulnerability. Thank you. Love that.
Yeah, and it's applying the advice that's been received, the guidance, and
Woo!
bringing it back with outcome. So don't come back with an outcome.
Yeah.
So if we say we agree upon something, then you have to make sure that you take a concerted effort to get that task done. So going back to Kate, do your job. And so in this case, as a mentee, there's action items that have been taken. Do your job to ensure you come back with an outcome. And at that you start building that trust because you're now doing the things that we agreed upon as your mentor mentee. And then
Actually,
of course, and being respectful of the fact that someone's investing in you and taking the time to make sure you complete those tasks.
yes, take the advice, use the advice, have it come to fruition. I love it. Let's see. You said one more question, and that was the question. Did we lose Tony?
She's back, but she looks kind of frozen.
Looks like
Okay. I might sneak another one in. We did have some comments in the chat. Eli, mentor helps you manage the support a sponsor provides. Angel, hey Angel, be good to everyone. You never know when those tables can turn. You never know who's going to show up and be your manager the next time.
True.
And then Michelle, hey Michelle, Michelle from Detroit. Maybe 5 years ago, I took a week and it felt good. Another driver, she's never taken that time away because she's like, show up at work every day, do your job, do a good job. I love that.
Good for you.
So Ali Shiv is, how should someone go about finding a sponsor, or should they wait to be selected by one? That's a great question. Any suggestions?
Yeah, how should I go about finding a sponsor or wait to be selected? I do think good talent people will speak on your behalf, and you don't know where they're coming from. So I do think going back to my kind of general rules first is do your job, fantastic, better than anybody else, and then be self-reflective and coachable. But I think sponsors, a lot of it comes from exposure. And, I think every company is different. If you work in a smaller company, you might need to network more on the outside, and you might need to build networks within your industry or within your function, et cetera. If you work in a big company, like Tony and I came from Walmart, which is massive, your network is more internally. So you kind of got to think about how you leverage those networks and who could be your sponsor. So if it's a big company, they usually have different programs or learning opportunities or different things you can be a part of. I used to always, and people would say, how did you find time for those things? Because it's important to me, because I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to meet people. And yes, I have a day job and it is more hours, but it was important to me to be able to learn and grow. But then lo and behold, you start to get connected. I'd always put my hand up for special projects. And I know some people are like, oh, but that's above my job. I should get paid. I should get this. To me, I saw it as an opportunity to whoa, maybe I can meet some new people and I could have some more people advocate, and I can show my skill set and I can learn and grow. And so I think exposure is one of the biggest ways to find a sponsor, is just putting yourself out there and letting people see your talent.
Awesome. Mark, did you have
Yeah, Kate just said something I think very important. Don't be afraid to pick up incremental responsibilities, because that gives you opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily have in your current or existing role. But back to Ali's question, the way about finding a sponsor, or should you wait to be selected? If you're doing your job well, that's very important. That's number one. Number two, our new work environment, we all work from home. Most people aren't going to the office. So how do people see you? How do you engage? How do you have conversations so a sponsor or a mentor will see you? Because now typically what you would do in the past, you would go to a conference room, have a meeting, you would have dialogue with people, and then you could potentially, I'll call it water cooler conversation, because as you're walking out of the conference room or staying in the conference room, you can have a development conversation with a potential manager, leader, or someone that may invest in you. But now what happens on Zoom or Teams or whatever we all use, you get on the call and we disconnect. So that mentoring opportunity is different now. So what you have to do is do what Kate just stated a moment ago. You have to advance yourself by doing more. You have to engage and create a network so people now have the opportunity to see what your skill sets are. And so now, as a potential mentee, you have to do more work than what you did in the past. You have to be more proactive because you don't have the opportunity to walk by someone's office so they can see what your skill sets are to get them to want to be a mentor or a sponsor. You now have to create these avenues of success on your own. You have to be proactive. You have to engage. It's almost like you have to become a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And the product is selling yourself.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to talk about what your capabilities and skills are, because you have to go out and advance it. If you're selling a widget, you're going to talk about how great that widget is. So now that widget is you, and you have to be proactive in selling yourself, engaging with these people, fostering these relationships, creating that network. So now someone may want to invest in you, be it a mentor or a sponsor. But it's a little more proactive work because of the fact you don't have the opportunity for water cooler conversations.
Yeah, great point. Just to quickly double down on that, just to give some tangible experience, like opportunities. Yeah, special projects if that's something that's in your company. But I also think one of the easiest way to do it is if your boss goes on PTO. Like what meeting can I sit in? How can I represent? What notes can I do? That is one of the easiest one. And talk about taking a break. Somebody put it in the chat. We all deserve our time off. Let your boss, make them feel good to go on vacation. Say, I got this. Oh, you want me to run that meeting? Do you want me to present that? Do you want me to do that? It's the easiest way. And you got at least 2 weeks, if not 3-4 weeks, that you could have that opportunity to do that. So that's, to me, one of the best ways to get exposure.
That's gold. That is gold. Well, thank you so much. Kate, Mark, this has been so amazing. I'm going to have to watch it again because I couldn't take the notes. But so many good things. And I hope that you all enjoyed us this evening. I know that we will follow up, but we're going to move to a word from our sponsors. So thank you so much. Okay, so we are back. We have another question. Let's see. We talked a lot about sponsorship, mentorship in the workplace. Do you think that there's room for that in the entrepreneurial space? As an entrepreneur, is it the same having a mentor and sponsor in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I can just give an example. So I went from Walmart, Fortune 1, obviously very big, to a mid-sized company, but it was a founder-led. And the founder had never done any other job but run this company. And it got to, $300-400 million business. And so he didn't grow up in corporate America. He didn't learn the things that some of us had learned in just doing, basic leadership, or didn't have the development courses or whatever. And so he had, kudos to him, he had built quite a big network of other founders, other leaders, coaches, etc. And obviously he was a little more privileged to have to pay for some of the coaches or whatever, but he was very proactive on networking with other business leaders in similar industries or similar. And I give him a lot of credit for that, because, to do nothing and then be CEO of all of a sudden something that grew quite big, and you don't have those skill sets that maybe some of us had the privilege of learning, you can still learn them, and you can still find partnerships, and you can still find mentorships. And I think Tony's example of the group things are also great. There are different circles of groups, there are different communities you can get involved with. But I think, you, as an entrepreneur, there are amazing opportunities to network and mentor and find sponsors out there.
Yeah, I say, and if someone that is an entrepreneur now, you don't go at it all alone. And the biggest thing is having someone, when you're trying to make business decisions or establishing goals, someone to talk to. Because if you're working in a vacuum, you're just that. You're in a vacuum. And so it's critical to make sure that you have someone that can provide that guidance and support to ensure that the things that you're doing, the decisions that you're considering, make sense. And so I would say, as an entrepreneur, you need multiple mentors. And to Kate's point, you need multiple people you communicate with, other business leaders who work in that space. And they don't even have to work in that space because, hey, how are you doing certain things? How are you doing your finances? How are you doing this? They provide that support and guidance, and they get you to think about things that you don't think about. Because as an entrepreneur, you're so focused on making sure you have the ability to pay the bills that oftentimes you get bogged down in the mess. And what a mentor does is make sure they clear the mud so you can see clearly and make the right decisions. So I think it's not something you should do, it's something you must do as an entrepreneur, and that is having a mentor.
I definitely have seen that. So I appreciate being an entrepreneur as well, looking at how other people are doing their work and building their businesses. So I see it as being just as important, having mentors, having sponsors. There's a lot of business development in the sponsorship, mentorship relationship for entrepreneurs. It's just, it really is the same in terms of being essential. We have one more question. What's the best way to prepare for a great mentor sponsorship relationship? What does the mentor have to do? What does the mentee have to do? How do we prepare for that?
Good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that really.
And you want to go, Kate? Go ahead. I'll
Sure.
come back.
I just think, Mark, your word that kind of resonated with me earlier is like, you got to love being a mentor and you got to love the process and you got to love the opportunity that you have to help somebody. And I think that comes with a curiosity on both ends. What got you to where you are and what motivates you and what values you. And then likewise, on the other side, what are your aspirations? What are you trying to learn? It really has to come from a sense of curiosity to get to know each other. And I think mentoring relationships take time. I think of like the relationship I have with Tony. I can be quite direct. I can be quite brutal, as I'm sure she'd share some stories. But it becomes because of years of building that trust and knowing each other that I can be that way. But I think that takes time, and it takes time to understand people and to really be curious and to know yourself, know what you want to get out of it from your side, but also curious about what do they look for in a relationship? What do they want? What kind of qualities do they want to see? And so I think it just comes from a really curious place of wanting to help each other. And, the mentor, we benefit too. So as much as we love to do it, it helps the greater our futures. We're going to build teams in the future. We're going to build organizations, and we're going to want really good people. And we might end up working for these people down the road because they're fantastic and they've got all this potential. So in the end, it all kind of goes around. So there's a self-serving purpose in mentoring as well. But I think coming at it from a very curious place of trying to understand is a good start.
Right.
Be curious.
Yeah, that's spot on. And, mentorship it's not a one-way street, as we had stated before. It's the mentee's role to keep walking and applying and not just listening. So again, my expectations is that the mentee must be active and not passive, right? They need to come in with clear questions. They need to come in with what they expect potential outcomes to be. They need to apply the advice, but then circle back, as we stated earlier, with outcomes. They need to also respect the mentor's time and respect the boundaries. Mm-hmm. So if the mentor says, we're going to be there and here's the expectations, we're going to get back in 2 weeks and here's the goals and things we've outlined, you have to respect my time and come back and have met those objectives. Again, do your job, as Kate stated earlier. So as a
Yeah.
mentee now, do your and then they need to also add value themselves. They should be coming through with insights and guidance and things that they sought. Because again, it's a two-way conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have that mutual investment, that's where you start seeing that success, because now it becomes a relationship. More importantly, it becomes a partnership. And although the mentor is supporting them, the mentee is actually driving the car. We're just giving them the support and the guidance so they can drive very well.
I love
So
that.
it's a two-way street is how I look at it.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think if the person who's asking is that, like, if it's the first meeting with your mentor, what does that look like? What is that script? I think to Mark's point, the person's really busy. So what you're leading the discussion. Hey, why did you want to meet with me? Why me? Like and then knowing your story, like, where am I at in my career? This is what I think I'm good at. This is what, going back to that self-reflection, man in the mirror. I mean, like, what do I want out of the relationship, and like, how do they think? That all plays together. So you have to kind of write out your narrative and your story and kind of write that out, but being very respectful of the leader, because the leader can have the opportunity to mentor lots of people. And so why you? What makes you the person that they're going to invest their time and energy for? And so just having that script is important.
Yeah.
I love that. I was checking the chat to see if we had any more questions there. But I think that those are some really good gems to help prepare to be a mentor, but to also be mentored. And so I love that, particularly the curiosity, asking the questions, trying to understand, learning how the organization works, how this process works. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry, just to like double down on it again, Adia, but I think, mentorship, we do it because we love it, but also because it's self-serving once again. And I think, a good mentee is like, not only what's in it for me, but what's in it for the company and where can I add value? So it's not about necessarily like, hey, what is the company trying to achieve? What is this? Like, where do we have obstacles? And then you're starting to set yourself up for how you are a solution. And that's what leaders are always looking for. Leaders are trying to solve problems. And if you're potentially, and I think of all the people who've approached me, it's like my wheels are turning, like, oh, okay, like they want to do this, they want to do that, they want to do this. We need people in these things. And I'm always trying to, like, as all leaders are, we're always trying to match make and try to figure out how to leverage the talent to get the outcomes of the business. And so I think, yeah, as a mentee, obviously, what do you want to get out of it? But also, what are you adding to the organization? Because all companies have goals. And what are you going to do to help fulfill that? Because that's when a leader is going to double down and try to help you, because, hey, win-win for everybody.
Yes, I love that. So companies are looking for people who solve problems, make money, and keep them out of trouble. Compliance. If you can add those three areas, you will become invaluable. I love it.
Right. As leaders, the value of mentorship, you should be building a bench. And you should be developing people in such a way they will replace you. You have to make sure that as you're trying to elevate in your career, you have someone who can replace you. So you need to be not afraid to develop people because they're going to replace you. You should be developing people skills so they can replace you. That's proper leadership. And so you should have a team of people that you develop and invested in, that they're well positioned to take your position or move into another position. You never want to stagnate people. So you want to mentor and develop them, and position them by building your bench to ensure that you have someone to replace you, and that the organization will be successful if you're sitting in that chair or not. And that's because of pure leadership and mentoring of others and position them for success.
Yeah, in my last organization, I put in talent planning, talent reviews for the first time. And so it was a new process for the organization. And one of the questions was, regardless if they're ready or not, you had to list 3 successors for your role. They could be ready in a year, they could be ready in 3 or 4 years. But that freaked out a lot of leaders. And what's happening to my job? No, that's just part of leadership, to Mark's point, is like, you should. And then my favorite question, when people want to get promoted, it says, well, cool, who's going to do your job? And if they don't have an answer for that, conversation's kind of over. Like, are you really ready? Because you should have a bench. And I think that's one of the best ways to get promoted in this world, is to say, I'm ready, but this is who's ready on my team. So no, the organization won't lose a beat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I love that. So being a good leader also includes being part of the succession planning, having your bench, preparing your replacement if need be. Something happens to you, you get another opportunity to be able to leave things in good hands. So I really love that. Tony is having some technical difficulties, so she won't be back, but she has passed the mic and a message as we close out. And so I get to stand in for her in her closing. And so I just want to thank our guests, thank those who are in the chat sharing and who are watching. But thank you for sharing your truths, Mark and Kate, your journeys, and just some of these really powerful insights into the mentorship, the sponsorship, and the relationship, and some of the things that we need to do to get together. But one thing that we do know is that transformation doesn't happen in isolation. So, building those relationships, that is really good information that you shared with us. We love that. These transformational opportunities happen in community through guidance and with the intentional presence of those who see our potential even before we do. So, to our listeners, everybody in the chat and out there, your journey is worthy of mentorship. So, please believe that you are worthy of being mentored. Your vision is deserving of sponsorship. So, be on the lookout, doing the work. As Kate and Mark have shared, be good at what you do. Focus on that. Be really good at what you do. Your vision is deserving of sponsorship. Stay open, stay bold, stay transformed. And until next time, this is Audia Wells standing in for Tony Carter, and this is Detroit Girl Transformed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Audia. Can you guys hear me okay?
She's back.
Listen, I think I got too excited about the Prosecco, but my laptop died. Okay. So be agile is what I would close with. And have
I cursed it. I
excellent.
cursed it on your technology challenges. I cursed it.
Kate, I thought about that. I was like fussing, like this is Kate bringing up technology, but I would just want to personally thank the moderator, Audia, for being so flexible and agile. We didn't miss a beat. I wasn't worried, and thank you to Mark and Kate because you guys are absolutely the best individuals that I would love to have a technology challenge with. I probably need a new MacBook, but this was such a great conversation. I'm so inspired to continue to go out and do the work on mentorship, on the transformative experiences of sponsorship. There was great engagement from the guests, great feedback. Check me out on my socials, DGT313. Um, on IG as well as Detroit Girl Transform, because I'm also going to post a couple of articles from the Harvard Business Review on the difference between mentor and sponsor, because we want to be rooted in information on what that looks like. Last but not least, if you want to be a sponsor for this amazing transformative experience that we have every Tuesday, Transformation Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, make sure you contact me at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. I have amazing advertisement and sponsorship packages. Special shout out to the Brazilian radio stream for always holding me down. Special shout out to my sister, Latanya Carter, who jumped on to support and also to get some great information. I just love you guys so much. I know I love you, but I love you even more because you guys kept it going. And for those of you that know me, that I over prepare, I was like dying inside. But I'm going to tell you, this podcast has taught me a lot about mindfulness. I did a couple breathing exercises. So we made it through. And you know what? Honestly, I was like, oh, Audie and Kate and Mark will be fine. But I was just texting you guys to let you know my laptop is going to MacBook heaven. But
Gotcha.
definitely wanted to thank you guys so much for all that you've done in the community, in the industry, to really mentor and pay it forward to others. Thank you for sharing. And again, check us out every Tuesday. We're going to highlight our episode for next week, which is going to be Boss Moves, and it's going to be with Samantha Abrams, who owns an amazing restaurant in Anacostia, DC, but she also is a really dope leader. All right, until next Tuesday at 9 p.m., check us out. Thank you so much, everybody.